you've ever asked yourself, how can I get the swing and the golf game that I've always imagined without trying every tip, every training aid, watching every video after video on social media, then this podcast is for you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the IMAGEN Golf Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by IMAGEN Golf and PXG. All right. Welcome back, Imagination. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to Friday. 4 left again. I am happy to say I'm pulling the ball just slightly to my left, just crossing the line a little bit, but short of a few chunks when I played last Sunday. Not so bad. Find myself holding back a little bit. My weight on my right side, probably because I got tendonitis in both elbows that I'm afraid to hit the ground. But other than that, not too shabby. So today's episode, I should say, is when we give you a tip, a tool, some strategies, some ideas, something that you can take with you to the course right here, right now, without changing your swing. And we do that, by the way, to lower your scores. And we do that in 4 minutes or less starting now. So today, we're talking about, I'm doing air quotes here, but like something kind of unsexy, for lack of a better, and probably overlooked by most amateurs, right? And by most, I'm talking about like 80% of you out there. And it's simply gapping your clubs. Most amateurs spend hours obsessing on their game, on their driver carry. But, they got 115 yards out, let's say, and they realize they don't have a 115-yard club, right? And they don't even have a 115-yard shot. They're stuck between, a full, pitching wedge, if you would, and half of, or not half, but a 3/4 9-iron, let's say, right? And now all of a sudden you got this delicate finesse shot, right? And you decelerate on the way down, and you know exactly what happens. It's a recipe for disaster and probably double bogey, right? So we got to figure out a better strategy. You got 14 clubs in the bag, essentially 13 because a putter counts, right? So you got 13 clubs in the bag. All 13 need to make a difference, and they all need to have a specific yardage, right? Because gapping is just that. It's a practice of, or the practice, I should say, of ensuring that every club, right, travels a specific, predictable distance, right? And the clubs have consistent intervals in between them. And I would even throw in there ball flight. It has a predictable ball flight, right? Your irons may not have the same ball flight, as a hybrid, as an example. Like my hybrids tend to go much straighter than my irons. So as long as I know that, it's very predictable, right? But ideally for men, you want a 10, let's call it 12-yard gap between every club. And like I mentioned in the opening, if you have a 20-yard gap between your 9-iron and your pitching wedge, or between your highest iron, in my bag, it's a 4-iron now. Actually, it's a 5-iron this season, 4-iron last year, right? And your next club, then you got a problem, right? Or if I see this all the time, right? Your 4 hybrid and your 5-iron go exactly the same distance, right? Or any 2 clubs, go exactly the same distance. Now all of a sudden you only got, 12 clubs in the bag instead of the 13 that we just talked about. Or better, even worse, you have a bag full, I'm doing air quotes again, of guesswork, right? So this is absolutely killing your score. The in-between kind of panic when you don't have a club for the yardage, right? And you try to finesse that longer club, or even worse, try to nuke a shorter one, right? This absolutely will change your tempo and almost always results in poor contact, fat or thin, right? A lot of clubs today, especially if you have newer clubs, manufacturers, I call it loft-jacking, if you would, at 60 years old, right? I've seen the industry change significantly in the lofts. Manufacturers today are making lofts much stronger than they were to help you hit the ball farther, right? Your 7-iron, I'm doing air quotes around the 7-iron, may actually be the loft of my old 5-iron when I played my best back in the day, right? And this creates massive gaps in scoring clubs, as an example, wedges, right? When you need probably your precision the most, right? And I see, look, redundancy in the bag, right? Many players carry 3 woods, 5 woods, 7 woods that they hit within 5 yards of each other, right? So here's what I want you to do. It's a pretty easy fix, right? And by the way, if you choke down on a club about, let's call it an inch from the top, you'll hit that club 7 to 10 yards farther, right? So now or excuse me, 7 to 10 yards less, right, than what you normally do. So now all of a sudden you got 2 shots for every club, right? So if you're in between clubs, we highly recommend that you choke down on the bigger club and take your normal swing. But that's a whole nother issue. But the bottom line, look, gapping is important. You need to have the right clubs in the bag, right? Um, you can do a 4-minute audit, right? Um, it's simple. Like step 1, as an example, go to get on any sim, right? Or any launch monitor, right? We love TrackMan, we love GC quads, we love Foresight, but there's a ton of them out there, right? Hit 7 to 10 balls with each club, ignore the outliners, and find what your medium carry distance is, not rollout distance, your carry distance. So now all of a sudden you got your carry distances for your clubs, right? And then identify what I would call bunches. Look for clubs that go a similar or same distance, right? If you're in the example I gave earlier, if your 5 iron, your 4 hybrid both go 175, then you have to get rid of one of them. One of them has to go, right? And I would get rid of the club that you don't hit the best, right? So that's step 2. Step 3, look for big canyons. Let's call it the Grand Canyon, right? If there is a 15 plus yard gap between your clubs, especially in your wedges, right, you will absolutely need to adjust those lofts, right, and add a club, right? Because if you have a 46-degree pitching wedge and a 52-degree gap wedge, as an example, right, that is definitely going to be more than 10 or 12 yard gap, right? So, and those are scoring clubs. So you can't have that, right? We are big advocates, especially since my point earlier about the stronger lofts. We are big advocates in more wedges than less wedges in the bag. All right. Inside whatever your pitching wedge. Mine's 100 inside of 120 yards. I have 4 clubs and I have 16 different shots I can do with those 4 clubs. And I know those distances locked down. All right. But let's say you don't even want to go through just that simple 4-minute audit. Well, then the next step is get fit, man. Any fitter worth their weight in salt, right? As my grandfather used to say, right? Any fitter, any decent fitter can bend your irons, can adjust your clubs, can make recommendations, right? Strong, weak, or whatever, and make sure that that your clubs are gapped properly. Okay. We are huge advocates. I am huge advocates of getting fit for clubs. But let's say you don't want to do that. You don't have the cash to do that. You don't want to take the time to do it. You love your curve, whatever the case may be. Then do the other 3 steps in 4 minutes. You'll be thanking me later, and you'll put away that club that you haven't hit in 3 seasons now. So look, in the end, the bottom line, golf is a game of proximity, right? The closer you leave yourself to the hole, the farther you hit your irons, the more consistent you hit each club, right? The higher your statistical chances are of holing out, right? Or of one putting. You can't get close if you're guessing which club does what. You just can't, right? You'll be wrong more times than you're right. And if you don't have a consistent swing and tempo through the ball because you're trying to do too much or too little with a said club for that gap in distance that you have, well, then you just know what's going to happen. It's not going to be good. So stop worrying about how far your 7 iron goes, right? How far you hit your driver, right? And start worrying about how often it goes, whatever distance that is, right? I'm telling you, if you mind your gaps, watch your gaps, you will watch your handicap drop. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the links, and here's to getting you to swing in the game that you've always imagined. All right, then. That's today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our site, IMAGENGolf.com. Check out our YouTube page at Imagine Golf, and we're on all the social media platforms. I'm the same at Imagine Golf. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. Hey guys, it's Daniel here. Hey, thanks for listening first and foremost. Handicaps haven't changed in over 35 years for one reason and one reason only. Traditional golf instruction just doesn't work. So if you're serious about getting that swing and game that you've always imagined, take a look at our site, imagengolf.com. Join our members only club. Check out my video series or even take a virtual or in-person lesson with me. There is no one who's more passionate about making you better in the industry, and I guarantee you'll golf better, guaranteed, or everything is free.